happening at the same time that demand is skyrocketing. So, electricity and its future, that's our big story tonight. The power grid used to be kind of a one-way street. Electricity was made at a plant and then sent to the buildings that need it to power things like lights and appliances, heating and cooling, that sort of thing. But these days, things are a lot more complicated. We have many more things that need that electricity. And on top of that, demand is growing as climate change gets worse and we move away from fossil fuels. So, where is all that power going to come from? You ask that question of us all the time. It's a great question. And it was also the focus of a summit in Seattle last week. The Pacific Northwest Energy Summit was hosted by Washington Senator Maria Cantwell and Oregon Senator Ron Wyden. They, along with utility companies and representatives from local tribes and officials from the U.S. Department of Energy, talked about the changes that we need to be making in order to meet the growing need for electricity. Here's Crystal Ball from the Pacific Northwest Utilities Conference Committee. Among other things, they track electricity usage in the Northwest and make forecasts on future needs.
We see great value in tracking the trend from year to year. And what we have seen in the last 2 years is remarkable. We are seeing a surge in demand for electricity that exceeds PNUC's previous forecasts. And this year's, the 2024 update to the Northwest Regional Forecast projects demand could increase by 30% in the next 10 years. That's an increase of 7,000 average megawatts, or enough electricity to power 7 cities the size of the city we are in today, Seattle.
So, big demand, and it's growing fast. And by the way, what an amazing name for somebody who's looking into the future for energy forecasts. Ball says that there are 3 main reasons why they're expecting the increase. First, the trend toward electrification in homes and cars as we try to reduce fossil fuel usage. Also, the growing development of data centers throughout the Northwest. Those are the physical buildings that hold tech infrastructure for companies and also power artificial intelligence. And more high-tech manufacturing, things like semiconductor manufacturing, which lawmakers are trying to move back to the U.S. Right now, those leaders say our grid can barely handle the demands currently placed on it. Take extreme weather, for example, the time when you really want to have a reliable source of power. That's when our grid is at its most vulnerable, they say, and in recent years, on a national standpoint, we've definitely seen it fail from time to time, sometimes because of physical damage from the storms. Climate Central is a nonprofit made up of scientists who work on spreading the word about climate change. They say that 80% of the power outages in the last 20 years nationwide were due to weather, and that twice as many power outages happened in the past decade than the one before. So things are changing. But there have also been rolling blackouts when power companies choose to turn off the electricity to a certain area temporarily. In 11 different states across the country, utility companies have had to institute rolling blackouts because they just didn't have enough electricity for everyone at the same time. We saw that just 2 years ago when a winter storm in the southeast put a huge demand on the power grid there, and rolling blackouts were instituted in Tennessee, Kentucky, and North and South Carolina. Now, we haven't not had rolling blackouts here in the Northwest, at least not yet. But Kurt Miller from the Northwest Public Power Association says it has been really close.
The future is now. The future is already here. We are already on the edge of an energy crisis across much of the United States, including the Northwest. And in the Northwest, we have not had to do that. We have not had to institute rolling blackouts, but we have come very close. Even this last Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, utilities in Oregon and Washington both declared Stage 3 energy emergency alerts. The next step is blacking out their customers.
So that's not great. So what do we do about it all? Those leaders are floating a couple of large-scale solutions, most of them years in the future. Remember when I told you about how our electric grid was built as a one-way system? Well, one of the things they would like to see is a multi-directional grid. That's where power is sent to buildings, and sometimes those buildings can send surplus energy back to the grid. Here's how Nancy Hirsch with the Northwest Energy Coalition explained it.
Getting more out of our buildings, managing our buildings, will be the key to providing the demand, the peak, and the reliability that we need. And that will require a multi-directional grid at the distribution level. We have a one-way power grid mostly. It comes from generation, goes to the buildings, to the load. The future, and in the near term even, is a multi-directional grid that supports the use of buildings as a resource to provide that peak energy. And as you know, the utility will interact with that building when they need it.
Eventually, the idea is to have a smart grid in place so that power companies can dial in exactly how energy is being used and tweak it as conditions change. Now, some of this is done with artificial intelligence as well. Check out this video from the U.S. Department of Energy.
The smart grid introduces a two-way dialogue where electricity and information can be exchanged between the utility and its customers. It's a developing network of communications, controls, computers, automation, and new technologies and tools working together to make the grid more efficient, more reliable, more secure, and greener. This smart grid enables newer technologies to be integrated, such as wind and solar energy production and plug-in electric vehicle charging.
And I know our local utilities are working on that right now. The panelists at the summit were excited about that one. They say it's already showing promise in Portland, as I mentioned, during the heat wave we saw earlier this month, for example.
Portland General Electric experienced its largest electricity demand shift in the company's history. And last week, during this prolonged heat wave, Portland General Electric customers were able to contribute 100 megawatts on Monday and Tuesday in shifting demand. That's remarkable.
Yes, it is. There are some other solutions that they're excited about. Green hydrogen, that's hydrogen that can be used for power. It's created by splitting water molecules by electrolysis into hydrogen and oxygen molecules. The hydrogen is used for power and the oxygen goes into the air. It's created using renewable energy sources like wind and solar. That's why it's green. But it needs to be stored and transported, and that infrastructure is a long ways off. Last year, the U.S. Department of Energy announced $1 billion in funding for the Pacific Northwest Hydrogen Association's PNW H2 hub to become a regional clean hydrogen hub. They're expecting to get another $5 billion in local investment. The hub is expected to create 10,000 jobs focused on clean hydrogen production and transportation. Then there's nuclear fusion, which is energy created when atomic nuclei combine. That's the opposite of how nuclear power works now, through fission, where atoms are split to create energy. Right now, research into fusion is underway, including at the University of Washington, but the technology is not quite there to create it yet. But 3 fusion energy companies are located in Washington state, and they're backed by hundreds of millions of dollars in venture capital money. Lawmakers in the Northwest are also looking at advanced nuclear energy, which are next generation nuclear reactors that can operate 24/7. Facilities are expected to start operating by 2030, with several companies operating in Washington. And new energy storage technology is advancing, including long-term storage. The Pacific Northwest National Laboratory is working on that one. But Miller from the Northwest Public Power Association says the Northwest is still woefully behind when it comes to the build-out of all the infrastructure, and that there are big barriers still in the way.
We're only building at about half the rate we need to actually build to achieve the West Clean Energy goals. So what's causing that? One, certainly supply chain issues, but the other big pushback, Crystal mentioned this, is communities. Communities, the more that there are large-scale industrial solar and wind plants that are being built, the more that they start to push back against those, right? Because it can't, most of these fall in rural communities, and all of a sudden it can change the rural nature of those communities. And so there's that push and pull a little bit, right? Where we're trying to do something for the greater good, but at the same time, you have to respect those communities as well. So that's a challenge.
Now, several of the leaders at the summit proposed coming up with a regional planning team to work on all of it together. We're going to be keeping an eye on all this as it develops and bring you more updates. But what questions and concerns do you have about the power grid? Our team will keep them in mind as we continue to cover energy and climate. Send us an email, will you? The address is thestory@kgw.com, or leave a voicemail at 503-226-5090. So those are the big picture problems and potential solutions involving the energy field, but there are also smaller scale moves that are happening to conserve energy. Tonight we want to show you a program that is a solution, we think, to leaky homes and high electricity bills. And no, we're not talking about weather stripping this time. It's about helping low-income families upgrade to more energy-efficient manufactured homes, getting a brand new home. Environmental reporter Cale Williams has our story.
Say hi.
Change can come in a lot of forms.
Feels good. Yes, really excited.
For Elizabeth Vasquez, on Monday, it came in the form of a remote-controlled tractor.
I'm really nervous. I'm excited, nervous, and anxious.
That tractor was pushing a brand new manufactured home. And for Vasquez, the upgrade was long overdue.
My old home it was home, but it needed a lot of money to put in to fix a lot of things. The ceiling was falling apart, the flooring, siding, everything, and it was really cold.
A year ago, a new home like this was little more than a dream for Vasquez and her family.
To see it become real right now, it's really exciting.
But she was able to get help through a joint program run by Energy Trust of Oregon and Oregon Housing and Community Services. Scott Leonard is a program manager with Energy Trust.
What we do is we provide funding that helps offset the incremental cost of getting the new home.
The program specifically targets homes that were built before 1995.
Pre-1995, there was no federal regulations that put into effect what the efficiency of the home would be. They use a lot of energy. Homeowners are spending a lot of their energy utility bills. So a newer home is going to help reduce that energy cost.
Eddie Cepeda helps families navigate the application process.
Energy Trust has an incentive for manufactured home replacement. It's up to $11,000 for a single wide, up to $16,000 for a double wide. This family right here, they ended up getting $10,000.
And he said the benefits of this new home will be tremendous.
The older homes, you'll see that you'll have like 1.5 inch, 2 inch exterior walls. The new homes nowadays are being built like regular homes, 6 inch exterior walls, it's such an upgrade, energy efficient all around. It helps the families bring down their energy costs.
And Vasquez is looking forward to bringing down her utility costs.
I already want it.
But as the new home was wheeled into place,
It's like a dream right now. Is this real here? I feel like floating.
and she got her first look inside.
Oh my goodness, look at this. Mira esto. Look. The kitchen.
She was thinking about a lot more than just saving on her utility bills.
I can imagine now all the meals I'm going to cook for my family. Finally, the kids are not going to fight for who used the bathroom first. I always dream about having an aisle on my kitchen, and now I have it.
Before crews had even set up the plumbing or electricity,
I can't express with words how I feel right now. My kids are happy, and I can't wait to move in.
she was thinking about the future.
It's not just like it's a new home. For us, for our family, for me, it's a new beginning. It's a new life.
And the people who helped her get to this moment in the present.
They help a lot. I can't. I'm really emotional right now.
Cale Williams, KGW News.
Cale says the family has a mortgage for their new home. The housing folks help them get terms they can afford. If you want to learn more about the program, perhaps apply for it yourself, you could check out our story at kgw.com. We have a link to the program. Still ahead on the story, a new program meant to help people on the street using drugs in downtown Portland and get them help quickly. It's already seeing success. We'll explain how it works when the story returns.
Buy and sell gold, silver, coins,
It will now be even easier for people addicted to drugs on the streets of Portland to get some help. That's because there's a new place downtown that outreach workers will be based out of, and they're going to be partnering with Portland police officers to do it. Here's Blair Best.
Lobo has seen the worst of street life.
I've saved 172 people.
A running tally of those he says he's saved from deadly overdoses.
Every drug's out here.
His focus Wednesday, to get more.
We're gonna go Panhandle on 182nd. Because my girlfriend looks hot, so they'll give her some money, and maybe we'll be able to get well.
By getting well, he means fending off a fentanyl withdrawal.
I'm really easy. I can do $5, $10. It's not like other people's.
3, 2, 1.
A few streets away, in the heart of Old Town, city and county leaders opened a center for outreach workers meant to help people like Lobo.
And for me, this is about redemption. Portland is going through a redemption phase, if you will. We are recovering.
Since December, Portland police have been sending outreach workers directly to people on the streets who want addiction treatment services.
I think this provider and police coordination and the expansion of this program is one of the most meaningful and one of the most important.
In the past 7 months, nearly 300 people have been offered recovery services, more than half of them accepted. Many got help the same day. That program is now adding more outreach workers and will be based out of this building on the corner of Northwest 6th Avenue and Gleason Street.
I don't have lived experience. You know, I'm not the best person for this. I'm here to enforce the law. And, you know, people that are suffering from a medical issue of addiction need people that can come to their level, that are culturally competent, and can provide that in-person immediate help.
The narrative in our community is that folks don't want help, and what we found is that folks want help if they can figure out how to get it.
You know, I like living out here. I like being free. I like not having to do what everybody else is doing, pay taxes, and I know it sounds stupid, but that's what I like.
Not every day is a day when people are ready. But when they are ready, we better be there for them.
Now, the expansion of this program comes less than 2 months before Multnomah County opens its deflection center in Portland's Central East Side, a place that officers will take people who choose treatment over jail time. That option comes in September, when possession of certain amounts of hard drugs like fentanyl will be a crime again. The two programs are somewhat similar. One just sends those outreach workers directly to the streets. Blair Best, KGW News.
Thank you, Blair. Now, speaking of that, let's get to some of your comments on our big story from last night. We told you that Multnomah County is working to figure out what its drug deflection program will actually look like. Commissioners talked about it for more than 2 hours yesterday in this public meeting. The program will be used beginning September 1st when Oregon recriminalizes possession of even small amounts of drugs. The deflection program will allow people found with drugs who have no other warrants to avoid jail and get help. But we also pointed out that the details on the program are being worked out in secret behind closed doors, and that County Chair Jessica Vega-Peterson is keeping her fellow commissioners out of those meetings. I offered my opinion that this is one of the biggest policy issues affecting the Portland area in a long time, and the meeting should be open and not done in secret. It's ridiculous. Many of you have strong feelings about the county chair who controls those meetings and whether they're open or not. Mitch sums up many of your comments.
I just want to say, as far as your opinion goes, you are dead on. I go farther. You've heard me say in the past, probably a couple of times, the voters need to recall Jessica Vega-Peterson. She is absolutely worthless to this cause, and she's holding back the rest of the county commissioners from doing their job, and the city as well.
All right, and here's a message we got from Ann. The more I hear about Chair Vega-Peterson, the angrier I get. The drug and homeless problem has been happening for years, and the county's been ineffective on solutions. She shuts down the commissioners and citizens as she attempts to control her fiefdom. She needs to go away, and I can hardly wait to vote her out. And Kelly added, I absolutely agree with you that those closed-door meetings regarding the decision for drug deflection policy is absolutely wrong. It flies in the face of the democratic ethos of where Portland stands and makes folks very uncomfortable with how, what, and why these decisions are being made. We also featured a story profiling local parents who are trying to rescue their children who are addicted to drugs and living on the streets of Portland. They want mandatory drug treatment for their kids and others addicted to drugs living on our streets. And many of you agreed.
Hi, this is Nancy, and I'm an addict who's been in recovery for almost 30 years now. And I just know from my own experience that what finally got me clean was getting a 12-month jail sentence. And I could go to treatment to get out of jail and go to it. So I did, and I decided that I was finally done with drugs, and I went to a program that would have extend my time beyond the jail sentence for the treatment, and I've been clean ever since.
Thanks for your call there, and we'll give the last word to Patrick from Portland.
Mandatory treatment is the only way to get a handle on this. Many formerly addicted folks are grateful for the day they were legally mandated to enter a recovery program, declaring it helped them turn their lives around. We do not treat any other deadly epidemic with the same hands-off approach as we are using with drug addiction. Why? The county chair, for whatever reason, continues to listen to the wrong people in creating this flawed experimental policy in a closed-door process that shuts out input from the other commissioners and the public. Greater Portland will continue to pay the price for years to come.
By the way, under the current plan, the county will not require drug treatment for someone going through the deflection program. Be sure to let us know what you think about this or any of the stories we cover. We really do read them all, and we love your feedback and input. You help shape our shows. As you can see, you just did. You can send your comments to thestory@kgw.com or leave a voicemail at 503-226-5090. We'll be right back.
Win up to $5,000.
And a collection kit your way. Last year, we collected school supplies for more than 15,000 kids. How about that? And we want to help even more this year. Remember, the supplies that you collect will stay in your local school district, so help your own community. Just visit kgw.com/school. And that's the end of our show. Thanks for watching. Whether you're watching live or later on YouTube or somewhere else, we appreciate you. And remember, the story, our collective story, that never ends. I'll see you tomorrow. As we leave tonight, we'll take a look in the control booth where Ashley and Megan are calling the shots, and then a look out the window. Some sky cams from our beautiful state, which is a little bit hazy with all that smoke.
Truckload special savings event at DeWitt, Portland's appliance expert.